Tatsu would hold on for dear life as she was carried arm in arm by both Kori and Sasuke as they flew high over the forest of death, making their way towards the center tower. At the bare minimum, a leisurely stroll from the starting point of the gates would have taken someone around 2 hours or so to make it to the tower by foot, assuming you weren't traveling at top speed. At the rate they were going, they could be at the tower in a little over 40-ish minutes, and they could see it in clear view. Probably when they got older, at their top speeds, they could probably make this flight in a little over 5 minutes if necessary. Of course, while flying in the air, you don't really take the time to make small talk, although Tatsu would at least try. So, do all Uchihas have wings? No, Sasuke would say. It was just me, my mother, and my... And your what? I don't really like to talk about it. Oh, I understand. So what about you, huh? You're from some samurai village? I come from the land of iron. That's where the samurai clan resides. We're not like other ninja villages. What exactly makes you different from a ninja? I mean, a samurai, ninja, kind of the same thing, Kori would say. We are not the same thing. For one, we don't go on missions like ninjas do. And whenever there's a ninja fight, we usually stay out of it. We're self-sufficient. We keep to ourselves. We live by a different creed, a warrior's code. We do not hide in the shadows like most. And yet here you are learning how to be a ninja, Sasuke would say. I was hoping that what I could gain in knowledge here would be beneficial to my people. And also, there is someone that I want to kill. So, you too, huh? Kori said. Tatsu looked at her confused. Sasuke was hoping that Kori wouldn't spill the beans, but she opened her big fat mouth, and just like that, Tatsu learned that Sasuke was also on the quest for revenge. Wow, now I feel like the odd one left out. Not like I already aren't. Revenge is not something you want on your heart, Tatsu would say. It's an all-consuming fire. It burns inside of you. It's all that you can think about day in and day out. At least for me. Sasuke could understand the sentiment. Tatsu, like him, had also experienced a great loss, although he wondered, what led her to be the way that she was? Who was it that crossed her? While Sasuke was curious, he didn't want to pry either. For now, they just continued their flight in silence. Getting closer and closer to the tower, it seemed like they'd have to wait a while before enacting their plan, to jump whoever got to the tower first, and then take whatever scroll was necessary. For now, they had a heaven scroll, which Tatsu was carrying for the team. They'd just have to wait and see who got an earth scroll. Although then again, anyone who was really making their way to the tower would have to have one of each, so the plan would work out well enough. All seemed quite normal, until suddenly, through the bustling of tree branches and tree limbs that were being snapped, a large-headed snake would come jarring towards them in the sky. Both Sasuke and Kori would pull up with Tatsu at the last moment to avoid being in the grasp of the snake. And then 5 more would appear as well. The snakes were trying to break them up, and unfortunately they were successful, with Tatsu falling right into the belly of one of the snakes, while Kori and Sasuke were left to fend off against the others. Tatsu! Kori would yell. She'll be alright. I don't think that thing's going to kill her just yet, but we're going to try to break her free as soon as possible. Who in the hell could be this far out? At the rate we were going, we should have been ahead of everyone. It's no time to wonder that. Whatever it is, there's someone on our tails. We have to stop them. Both Kori and Sasuke would now deal with the large snakes that they were fighting against, while Tatsu found herself in the belly of a snake, the last place she wanted to be. She hated snakes more than anything. They were the symbol of evil in her eyes, the symbol of the man that took everything from her, her parents. It was a little over 6 years ago, but she remembered it quite vividly. In the Land of Iron, there were many known artifacts that the samurai kept within their possession. Among them, rare swords, other scrolls, things of that nature. It all started with a man pretending to be that of an old beggar looking for refuse. He was taken in, cared for. And what were they repaid with? Death, slaughter, and mayhem. She'd never forget his eyes. His sinister, golden, snake-like eyes. The eyes of the devil itself. His pale white skin matching with the snow that fell around them. Her father was a rogue shinobi from the Hidden Mist village. He was said to have hailed from a lost clan known as the Yuki clan. That was how she gained her power in the Ice Kekkei Genkai. Her mother, a samurai, and the daughter of the village leader, Mifune Yamashiro. They were the first ones to engage with the Snake Man, and they were the ones that lost their lives. By the time Mifune arrived, he found his daughter and his son-in-law dead, and only his grandchild remained, holding on to her broken sword for dear life. She tried to make an attempt against him. He merely broke her sword and left her there in her own shame, as if to say she wasn't worth killing. She wasn't even worth his time. He'd gotten what he'd come for, and there was no use in wasting his blade to kill her. She'd always held on to that anger, and now that anger surfaced before her. Inside of the belly of the snake, she activated her power in ice release. Ninja art, ice style, ice-piercing spikes! Immediately, from every direction all around her, she created multiple pointing spikes of ice that poked through the belly of the snake, ripping and tearing it in half as she cut herself free. In the meantime, Sasuke was flying and maneuvering in the air, using his fire style to burn away at the snakes and to kill them, while Kori was unleashing her full power, using her glowing eye beams to fire and shoot off the snakes, as well as blasting them away with her palm strikes. She wasn't entirely sure how she could even perform techniques like this. Kakashi theorized that it must have been something inherent to her skills, because it wasn't like any form of ninjutsu. Along with the glowing green eyes, she could shoot out green forms of energy out of her palms of her hands, as well as the laser eyes. They were rather effective, to say the least, and in conjunction with the Shadow Clone Jutsu, they were able to make short work of the snakes that attacked them. As for Sasuke, by the time he finished, both he and Kori would reconvene once more on the treetops, and standing across from them, their assailant. It appeared to be a woman, a grass shinobi, hidden away under a hat, a sinister grin etched across her face as she licked her lips happily, like a predator that had now cornered its prey. Fine specimen. Fine specimen indeed. Were you the one that sent those large snakes after us? Sasuke asked. But of course. I've been keeping my eye on you for a while now, and I simply wish to introduce myself. It's not every day you get to come across a legendary Uchiha, Sasuke. So that's what you're after, huh? You want to fight with me? All right then. Sasuke, are you sure about this? Corey would say. Don't worry, this'll all be over in a few minutes. Sasuke would spread his black feathered wings as he soared straight towards his opponent. He was going to go for an all-out blitz. One swift strike is all it would take. Although, the grass shinobi in question was easily able to counter him, kicking him back down to the ground and forcing him to recover himself as he went soaring right back up. The two would engage in a flurry of taijutsu, Sasuke thinking he held the edge by staying in the sky. But the grass ninja was able to move from branch to branch, leveling up just to the point to match him, and to even drag him back down on a few occasions. Corey would try getting involved also. The grass ninja was more than effortlessly capable of fighting them both off. So, the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Truly a marvel indeed. Her blows are much heavier than that of an ordinary genin, and that power, I wonder what it could be. Truly a fine banquet of opportunity, a treasure trove of capabilities, all at my fingertips. The grass shinobi would continue to fend off against the two of them, until eventually they were both left on the back end. I must say, the fact that you've both been able to hold your own for this long, it's mighty impressive. Not every day that genin can swap hands with a sanin. A sanin? And what the hell's that? I guess they really don't teach education properly. Not like they used to. If you don't know who the sanin are, then you must be quite inadequate. Yeah, so you got a fancy title, Corey would say. Genin, chunin, jonin, sanin, who gives a crap? It doesn't matter when you're dead. Oh, child, I agree with you on that. I've never really much cared for labels. They don't really matter. Chunin, jonin, sanin. In the end of the day, when two warriors clash on the battlefield, all that matters is being the one that walks away alive. Immediately, the grass shinobi would give off a strong aura of killing intent. Its pressure was so strong that for even someone like Corey, she felt an unequivocal amount of fear. She'd always felt like she was the biggest and the baddest, that there wasn't anyone she couldn't swap hands with. But this pressure, this feeling, it was the feeling of being in the presence of a beast, in the presence of someone who could really kill you and not even think twice about it. Even for Sasuke, the pressure felt overwhelming. What in the hell did they get themselves into? What had they been doing all this time? They were just being toyed with, like a cat playing with a mouse before it kills it. That's what it was. All of that offense they were getting off, she was just letting them. They never stood a chance. They were never really in this. For Sasuke, it felt suffocating. It felt like he couldn't breathe. Like the very essence of death was all around him, and the grave was getting ready to swallow him whole. To steal his own nerve, Sasuke would take his kunai and stab himself in the leg to break himself out of the paralysis. For Corey, she would be shaken out by Sasuke, telling her that they needed to get out of there as quickly as they could. For the first time, she was ready to agree. This was way beyond their payroll. The two of them would jet off in the opposite direction. the grass shinobi licking its lips once more as it went to pursue its target. Oh, I love when they try to run. Sasuke, what are we supposed to? No time for that. We need to get to the tower. It doesn't even matter at this point. We just need to get away. We're just gonna run? Sasuke, if it's that powerful, there's no way that we can... What are we supposed to do? If we stay and fight, we're dead. If we try to run, we're also... I'm glad you're coming to that realization. They stopped in their tracks on a side of the tree branch. She was already in front of them. They had at least cleared over 200 feet. How on earth could she... Has reality finally set in for you? You don't stand a chance. You have no way of escaping me. Surrender now or die. Is it the scroll? Sasuke, we don't have it, Corey would say. And honestly, I get the feeling that even if we did, it wouldn't matter. It's not the scroll she's after. It's after us. Now you're catching on. Your other teammate, well, I doubt she would have been anything all that special. But you two, on the other hand. It was just then they could hear the tree branches starting to be ruffled, as just behind the grass shinobi, Tatsu was hovering above her, with her sword already drawn, ready to lop her head off. A look of fury and bloodlust in her eyes, hidden behind the mask. A look of rage. Nice for you to join us. Go to hell, Orochimaru! Yeah! She would swing her sword, but the grass shinobi would duck down. However, Tatsu wasn't finished. Immediately, as Orochimaru, now being identified, would turn to deal a blow to Tatsu, Tatsu would counter by blocking with the sheath of her sword. Ice style! Frozen prison! Immediately, Orochimaru's left arm would be covered in ice. She would have no choice but to back away, as Tatsu would go on the offensive, eventually getting to the point where she actually managed to slice the grass ninja on the cheek. A look of surprise on Orochimaru's face. Ah, I remember this technique. Samurai. I have to say, it's been a while since I tangled with one. Shut the hell up! Orochimaru would counter by pulling out a kunai and blocking the blade. Do you wish to dance with me, child? I'm gonna kill you! I'm gonna kill you, you son of a bitch! Yeah! Ice style! Piercing ice spikes! Tatsu would slam her hand to the ground, and multiple jagged edges of ice would come protruding out. Orochimaru would now be on the back foot, dodging each large jagged spike that came jutting out towards her. By the time she jumped right into the air, Sasuke was now back involved as well, his two Tomoe Sharingan fully activated, as he would deliver a devastating kick to Orochimaru's side. Corey would start raining down fires of green beams straight towards Orochimaru. They had steeled their resolve, and they were there to fight for their comrade. For Sasuke, he couldn't turn away now. Not now. There were so many monsters in this world. Like him. If he just turned around and ran, then how could he ever hope to beat him? What was he even thinking? Running shouldn't have even been an option. And for Corey, she wasn't going to let another comrade die. Not on her watch. Not again. All three members of Team 7 would stand together united as they looked at the large crater that had been formed. A slithering hand would come crawling out. The she revealed to be a he, ripping off what appeared to be a fake mask. Orochimaru, Tatsu would say. Ah, someone who knows me. Nice to make your acquaintance. You are all quite powerful. Yes, indeed. This will surely be fun. You're going to die, Orochimaru. Tatsu, Kori would say. How do you know this? He's the bastard who killed my parents, who attacked my village. Ah, yes. Yes, I remember you. You were the girl back then. You tried to attack me with a sword. Funny how that worked out. Though, I would have never suspected to meet you here of all places. You decided to become a shinobi? I just need the power to kill you myself. You should know what happened to your parents. I promise it wasn't personal. Without even thinking, Tatsu would speed blitz towards Orochimaru, who would have to block with a kunai now, as Tatsu looked at him furiously. It was personal to me. Tatsu would engage with Orochimaru, as Kori and Sasuke would join in, a 3-on-1 assault of the highest of magnitudes. For Orochimaru, he couldn't help but become nostalgic. Their teamwork, even while new to one another, was surprisingly immaculate, especially once Kori had managed to pin him back against a tree. Tatsu managed to freeze him in place, and Sasuke wrapped him around with ninja wire, looking to burn him away with a great fireball jutsu. Yes, they were able to overcome many of his traps along the way. It was obvious that these three, they were raising their game. Orochimaru got to the point where he was feeling nostalgic. It kind of reminded him of his days with the Sannin, when they fought against Hanzo the Salamander. Is this what Hanzo felt like? Was this that experience? Fighting against 3 prodigy-like shinobi, with all of them giving it their all. And had it been anyone else in the exams, they might have actually gotten the kill. No, they probably would have. Unfortunately, Orochimaru was not other shinobi. And soon enough, he got tired of playing with his food. Tatsu would go in for a strike, only for Orochimaru to kick her in the gut, before grabbing her by the back of the head, kneeing her in the face, and slamming her to the ground. She tried to raise herself up once again, but Orochimaru backhanded her back to the ground easily. Kori would come in for a strike as well, only for her arms and legs to be bound by snakes, as Orochimaru would use the 5-pronged seal, launching it on top of her 8-tetragram seal, disrupting the power of the 9-tailed QB fox that was giving her a boost in power, causing her chakra to go all out of whack as she fell to the ground unconscious. That left Sasuke. Seeing his comrades fall right before him, it only made him mad. Orochimaru anticipated this. As the two of them would engage once again, he would pin Sasuke to the ground easily, taking time to admire his wings. A pretty shade of black. I dare say, They shimmer even more than your brother. Say, how is Itachi? Shut up! I'll kill you, just like I'm gonna kill him! Yes, you want to kill Itachi. I can't blame you. After all, he took everything away. All of your clan, your brethren, your mother and your father. No. Shh. Sasuke. You should know. All I want to do is help you. I have a gift. When you're ready, come and find me. And I'll give you what you want. True power. Orochimaru would bite Sasuke on the neck, retracting his fangs away. Sasuke would writhe on the ground in pain, his wings retracting back inside of him as a mark formed on the left side of his neck. Team 7 had been taken out, and Orochimaru admired his handiwork. He would disappear into the night as Tatsu slowly got to her feet once more. She took her teammates to an area for them to recover. They weren't far off from the tower, but at the same time, they were in no position to put up a fight. And so much for the first day of the Chunin exams. The next 2 days, Tatsu would spend watching over both Sasuke and Kori, as the two of them needed time to recover. Although this too would be cut short, as before long the team would find themselves under attack, that being from the team from the Sound Village. Dosu, along with Ken and Zaku, they had their orders to find and eliminate Sasuke Uchiha. For Tatsu, she took her sword and stood ready to fight off against the members of the Sound Three. Zaku and Ken would go in for the beginning flurry. However, she managed to hold the both of them back. For the most part, she was able to fend off against the three of them on her own. But eventually, the odds just became too overwhelming. But before they could deliver the killing strike, however, Sasuke would be the first to awaken. The first one, invigorated, revitalized. His black wings, both stretched out full, and half of his body enveloped in black markings, as a sinister aura washed over him. It looks like the sleeping prince has finally awakened, Zaku said. Wait, Zaku, don't! What, Dosu? I'm supposed to be scared by the pretty little wings? It's nothing. He's nothing. Prepare to die, Sasuke. Zaku would hold up both of his arms and shoot out 2 pressure-fired cannon shots right at him. But the moment he did, Sasuke was gone, reappearing right behind Zaku. Sasuke would place his foot on his back while grabbing both of his arms. Ken would look to assist Zaku, but Tatsu would take the moment to strike her while her guard was down, slashing her in the back, cutting her right at the spinal cord, paralyzing her right in place. All she could do was look up in horror as Sasuke would rip both of Zaku's arms right out of the sockets. Ugh. Dosu. Oh my God. We're sorry. We just... Corey would come stammering out of the camp as well. Safe to say, not to a sight that was pretty to say the least. Tatsu standing over a fallen Ken, Sasuke standing over a fallen Zaku with both of his arms missing, and Dosu being startled by all of it. He raised his hand with the sound gauntlet, ready to fire a strike at Corey, believing that he was about to go down swinging. Corey, however, would dodge at the last moment, giving Sasuke enough time to kick Dosu in the neck and take him down. Sasuke felt the bloodlust. It felt exhilarating, incredible. But he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Tatsu. It's over, Sasuke. You need to calm down. Calm down. Sasuke felt the wings going right back into his body, and the markings receding back to the base mark on his neck. Corey would saunter over to her teammates as well, as all three would hold each other up. Despite everything that happened, they'd come out on the other side. But there was still the pressing matter of passing the exams. Thankfully enough, Dosu had the Earth Scroll that they were looking for. And after gaining it, they had both scrolls that were needed. They would head to the tower and they would pass to the next round of the Chunin exams. As for Dosu and his team, Zaku was bleeding out. Ken was all but done for, and Dosu, how had they gotten involved into this? It was then that Kabuto and his team would pass by. Well, it looks like you guys have had a time of it. Kabuto, please. Zaku, he needs your... The two members of Team Kabuto, each one heading over to both Zaku and Ken. Without hesitation, they snapped both of their necks, killing them. Kabuto, why did you... I'm afraid that there's been a change of plans. What? There's no point in carrying dead weight, Dosu. I figured you of all people should know this. Kabuto, you bastard! Before he could even fire at him, Kabuto was already standing behind Dosu. Don't feel too bad. You guys never stood a chance. He slit Dosu's throat, watching him fall to the ground and into a puddle of his own blood. Kabuto couldn't help but shake his head at all of this. And Orochimaru thought that these three were going to be something special. More like amateurs, if you ask me. A bunch of snot-nosed runts. Well, it can't be helped. As they always say, youth is always wasted on the foolish. Come on, we need to head to the tower. Otherwise, you two won't make it to the next round. By the time that the 5 days were up, the second round of the Chunin exams would come to an end. Although, the staff were definitely more on alert than ever before, especially given the bodies of the grass ninja that were found and Anko's encounter with Orochimaru in the forest. Safe to say, they knew that trouble was afoot. But for now, the only thing they could do was proceed. But before doing so, Hayate Gecko, one of the proctors, would inform Lord Third that there would be too many to move to the next round, and as such, a preliminary round would have to be held before they could advance to the next stage. There were 7 teams in total, 21 participants, which dropped to 20 after Kabuto excused himself from the Chunin exams. With that left 20 participants. An even number would make things easier. Instead, they were going to have one-on-one battles. The top 10 would advance to the true final round of the Chunin exams. Of course, there were some that complained in protest, but there were others who were fine with this choice of action, if it meant that the best of the best would advance to the next stage. And with that, the preliminary round of the Chunin exams would be underway. Now, for the sake of time at this portion in the story, I am going to do a brief overview of the prelims of the Chunin exams. I won't be going into detail for each and every fight that takes place, but I will give you the details of overall how the battles would transpire. Starting with the first prelim match. The first match would be Neji Hyuga of the Leaf versus Kankuro of the Sand. Initially, Kankuro would have been more than willing to take part in this battle, but seeing who he was going up against, he thought better of it, and instead would choose to forfeit his match. The reason being is because Kankuro knew that for what was to come, he'd have to keep all of his secrets in reserve, and quite frank, there was no point in doing so with someone who could see through all of your secrets. As such, Kankuro would forfeit the match, and without even fighting, Neji Hyuga would advance to the finals. The next match would be Kori versus Shino Aburame. This match would definitely be a clash of the titans, with Shino trying to slow down Kori with his overwhelming force of insects and insect ninjutsu. While they would be able to eat away at a great deal of her chakra, which would also be hampered by the 5-pronged seal that was given to her via Orochimaru, in the end, Kori would simply have too much overwhelming force and power for Shino to go up against. Ultimately, the fight comes down to Shino running out of too many insects and not being willing to use every single one of them to try to win the fight. Ultimately, he would value his hive over trying to win a battle, so he would have no choice but to forfeit in defeat, and with that, Kori would advance to the next round. The third match would be Sasuke Uchiha versus Kiba Inuzuka. This match would definitely be a back and forth, with Sasuke being limited to not using his ninjutsu or his Sharingan, and with Kiba working alongside Akamaru, it would definitely be Sasuke working on the back foot for most of the match. But with his battle IQ and ingenuity, as well as the aid of his natural strength and with the usage of his wings, Sasuke would manage to come out on top against Kiba, advancing to the next round. The fourth match would be Tamari of the Sand versus Ino Yamanaka of the Leaf. I don't have to go into too much detail to explain to you why Tamari would win this fight. Ino would put up a decent effort, but in the end, it simply wouldn't be enough. Ultimately, Tamari has her beat in terms of long-range ninjutsu and in overall strength. Ultimately, Tamari would win and advance to the next round. The fifth match would be Rock Lee versus Choji Akamichi. This would be a good clash of good old-fashioned strong-hitting taijutsu, with Rock Lee and the Leaf Hurricane clashing with and the human expansion bulldozer. It would be the irresistible force clashing with the immovable object. It would even go so far as to have Lee be forced to use the primary Lotus just to give him the extra boost of power needed to bring Choji down, as a sign of respect. Ultimately, it would be a good jovial battle, but with Rock Lee as the victor. The sixth match would be Shikamaru Nara versus Misumi of Team Kabuto. Initially, Misumi would think that he had the edge, considering the fact that Shikamaru made no effort to stop him as he tried to wrap his elongated body around Shikamaru. The only problem is that because he got so close to Shikamaru, it made activating the Shadow Possession Jutsu a whole lot easier than it needed to be. In rather unglorious fashion, Shikamaru, similar to how he took out Ken in the original timeline, would just easily knock out Misumi by slamming his head against the wall via the Shadow Possession Jutsu. But that would be his own undoing. And with that, Shikamaru would advance to the next round. The seventh match would be Virgil versus Yoroi. Now, I don't need to do any explanations for who Virgil is a stand-in for in this story. Virgil, just like in DC Comics, is Static Shock, although in this universe, he's not known as Static Shock per se. He's actually a shinobi from the Hidden Cloud Village known as Virgil, although he has the nickname Static. This clash would be a bit difficult for Virgil, seeing as how he'd have to go against someone capable of absorbing ninjutsu through skin-to-skin contact. However, with his overwhelming force and power, Virgil would get the win and advance to the next round. The eighth match would be Hinata Hyuga versus Gaara of the Sand. Safe to say, this match would not be for the faint of heart, specifically because Gaara would be an overwhelming monster of an opponent for Hinata to deal with. However, unlike the original timeline, where Neji was discouraging Hinata from fighting before the match even started, Gaara would do no such thing, and Hinata, despite the horrors that she had seen from Gaara in the Forest of Death, would still be motivated to try. Hinata is very perceptive, so much so that she would take note of Gaara, of his minor mannerisms, and how the sand worked around him. The Gentle Fist would be a good way of countering against the chakra-infused sand. Would Hinata be able to get in any hits? Absolutely not. She wouldn't be able to get through Gaara's defense despite everything she'd managed to try. Ultimately, Hinata would just continue to fight until she ran herself ragged. And this would intrigue Gaara. But ultimately enough, Gaara would just look to try to end her in that moment. But before even getting a chance to, seeing that Hinata had no way of defending herself, Hinata would be spared by the other Jonin, who would step in and stop her from being severely hurt, as she was already pretty beat up. Gaara was prepared to just quit in that moment, but because the Jonin stepped in, Hinata would be spared, and Gaara would advance to the next round. The ninth match would be a battle of Kenjutsu, as Omui of the Cloud would collide with Tatsu of the Leaf via the Land of Iron. This would be a good traditional case of sword versus sword, each swordsman looking to determine themselves as the best. Omui would definitely be crafty and skilled, especially when it came to their clash of ninjutsu, ice release versus lightning release. However, Omui's loss would ultimately come from the fact that he overthinks way too much, and because of his overthinking in the midst of battle, Tatsu would be able to gain the edge and would defeat him. But still, it would be good sportsmanship between the both of them, as they both had great admiration for the other, for their skill in the way of the sword. And then finally, the 10th and final match of the prelims. Karui of the Cloud versus Tenten of the Leaf. Safe to say, this would be an unceremonious battle. Mainly because while Tenten would perform a lot better in this timeline, she would still be defeated by Karui, and this is for the primary reason. Karui would point out to Tenten that her issue is that she doesn't have a singular weapon that she can rely on. All the girl does is just unsummon weapons from a scroll and chuck them at people, which can be effective, but once you run out of weapons, you see just how ineffective it truly is. This, while it would be a crushing defeat for Tenten, would actually turn into a learning experience. Between how she saw Tatsu and Omui fight and how Karui was able to use a sword, this would actually be the encouragement that Tenten needed, because instead of trying to just chuck a whole bunch of weapons every which way, she would see that it would be better off in her interest if she took one weapon, one sword, and tried to master that instead. Karui would get the win, but Tenten would gain victory in defeat, because this would set her on the path to wanting to learn the art of Kenjutsu, the way of the sword. Once the prelims were over and the 10 finalists had been selected, the third Hokage would have each of the 10 finalists draw lots to determine how the final setup of the third round of the Chunin exam would take place. Ibiki would carry a box, with each one containing a number, from 1 to 10. After each one had drawn a respective number, Ibiki would take a clipboard and would write down their names respectively. After doing so, the flipboard would be turned and would reveal how the final round would be set up. This would be the final round for the Chunin exams. Due to there being 10 participants, a special wildcard round would be fought before the first round would officially begin. This would be the wild card to determine who would move on to the final tournament of 8, which would be the first round. With the lots that were drawn, it was determined that 4 would battle 5 in the wild card spot to face off against number 1, while in the other half of the bracket, 9 and 10 would fight with the privilege of taking on number 6 in the first round. The tournament shaped up as follows. Karui of the Cloud would draw 1. Neji would draw 2. Virgil would draw 3. Shikamaru would draw 4. Tatsu would draw 5. Gaara would draw 6. Kori would draw 7. Sasuke would draw 8. Rock Lee would draw 9. And Tamari would draw 10. With the tournament now being shaped into place, Shikamaru would face Tatsu in the first wildcard round, with the winner facing Karui in the first round. And in the second wildcard match, Rock Lee would face Tamari of the Sand, with the winner facing Gaara in the first round. With that, everyone would look to their respective opponents, gauging and sizing up the competition. For some, there was a sense of excitement, a little bit of mystery, some tense blood, and a little bit of history as well. The third Hokage would admonish all of them to train and work hard over the next month, because in just a short time, the third and final rounds of the Chunin exams would take place, this time on a grand scale for the shinobi world to see, for each of them to perform and to show what they had learned. Because in the end, only one can reign supreme. This concludes Naruto, King of the Beast. What If Naruto Was Swamp Thing, Season 2, Part 3. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue with Naruto, King of the Beast. What If Naruto Was Swamp Thing? Season 2, Part 4. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.